Hello, good evening, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to round two here of the AFVRC. And it's David Christie and John Knighton here with you for what is likely to be one of the most spectacular rounds of the championship. But the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge rolls on to Kent. And John, welcome back, but I say this with trepidation. I feel like this is the calmest we're going to be tonight.
Well, you've got to stay calm in situations like this, David. But yeah, very good evening to you and to all of those of you who are tuning in tonight. And hopefully you're going to enjoy some really exciting motorsports. And to be honest with you, if last week is anything to go by, then it's going to take a lot of beating. But as you say, we're on the Brands Hatch Indy track. And looking at some of the times already that have been set during qualifying or during practice, there's not going to be very much to separate these cars. So it's all about discipline of the drivers tonight, actually, David, isn't it, really? They've got to be disciplined, otherwise we're just going to have carnage.
Well, we saw a little bit of tempers flaring in race 2 of round 1 last week, and we'll get to that in a second. But John, we have to talk about our 2022 champion, Craig Dunn, and that absolute horrible race meeting that he had last week out. It just wasn't to be, hoping, I would imagine, to make amends this week.
Yeah, he had a bit of a bad time, obviously from Craig's point of view, and indeed from the Army's point of view, because the last week totally dominated by RAF drivers. Obviously, Craig, as the champion, is hoping that he can get his season underway tonight at Brands Hatch, and there's no reason why he can't, because he's already proved what a good driver he is. And I'm sure that he's been working very hard during the week on making sure that things don't go as wrong as they did last time. And largely not his fault, I think it has to be said as well. There were a lot of problems which were out of his control. But I saw a couple of postings from him earlier saying how determined he is, looking forward to getting stuck in tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And that is exactly what we are looking forward to. We cut to live action then here from qualifying. And very much looking forward to this, John. We're here at Brands Hatch. It's the Indy layout, which is obviously the shorter version of it. 1.2 miles, still very tight and tricky and twisty and turny, and everything you could possibly want to make a very fun night at the races. And that is exactly what we have got. And within 6 minutes of this 20-minute qualifying session, you can see exactly how close things are there. 20 cars within 1 second, and that makes things very close here right at the top. However, what that does mean is that these drivers are going to be within a hair's width of each other, not only during the race here, John, but during qualifying as well.
That's right, and they're therefore got to be very careful. We've already seen a few thrills and spills during practice, and 20 or so cars, 30 cars actually on the track. It's going to make it very crowded indeed. And you mentioned, didn't you, earlier, right at the beginning actually, David, about discipline being the important thing, and it certainly cost Ryan Martin a few points, didn't it, at the end of race 2 last week. I mean, he won both races, produced a terrific performance, but there were a couple of incidents and he's had a few points deducted, so his lead at the top of the championship not quite as high as he might have expected.
Yeah, right. Well, that's exactly what we're going to have to keep our eye out on. And the thing is that for me, having commentated on many different championships and seen how this pans out, it's horrible, because the last thing you want, John, is to get to the end of the season and that difference being only 2, 3, 4, 5 points, which is explained by those points that are taken off by those incidents. You never want to get to the end of the season and thinking, oh man, if only it wasn't for that.
Well, just to say, Ryan actually ended the night last week on 202 points from 2 sensational winning drives, well ahead of Paul Hayhoe in second place on 174, but Ryan dropped 20 points for obviously some incidents that must have gone on at the beginning of race 2. So he's down now to 181, so he's only 4 points clear. He's only a few points clear of Paul Hayhoe on 173, James King on 169 with Stuart McFadden on 156. We're actually with Stuart at the moment, you can see, and he's leading the way at the moment in qualifying. So, I mean, he'll be hoping to move up the field as we go. So, all to play for tonight. But Ryan, there he is, at the moment, sort of on an outlap at the moment, currently sort of third in the list, and with only a few minutes to go to qualifying. They've got, I think they've got about 15 minutes left, something like that. They've only got 20 minutes to really stake their claims in this qualifying. It's going to be really important to be at the front of the grid tonight, with such a tight number of cars on such a small amount of track.
And the thing with that as well is the fact that 20 cars. You've got your 28 cars, John, trying to qualify within that 20 minutes. But the thing with that is that you want to really make the most of that. But you've got those 27 other cars on a very small 1.2 mile circuit, all trying to do exactly the same thing. It makes it very, very tricky indeed. And I'm just seeing Stu McFadden up at the top of the time screen there, 51.284. So the times are really starting to eke out, but there's not that much more that they're going to be able to improve by.
Well, just look at it. It's what point the difference is less than a second between with the top 20, and that's going to make it for very exciting racing. And of course, all these cars are all identical. The GR86 Cup cars, Toyotas. So I imagine the layouts will be pretty similar. They won't have changed too much of the settings for this race. So trying to eke out as much power as they can from these cars. I think you get identical cars on a short track like this, and my goodness me, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Cup cars are always a wonderful, wonderful championship to race in, purely because they level out that playing field, something that we see so often in motorsports, where it is supposed to be very similar, but it's actually nothing like each other. And we see that, for instance, at the weekend, as we see Chris Slater taking, shall we say, the scenic route at the exit of the top of the corner there at Druids there. I'm not sure that's going to benefit his lap time on that one there, John.
Certainly off-track limits, definitely. There's another one there with Matthew Chambers too. He's gone off as well. So, not easy. These cars are not easy to handle on the twists and turns. We're still early in the season, so people are still getting to grips with it. And that added pressure of needing to be right up there is going to maybe take its toll on a few people tonight.
Yeah, and obviously one of the